All right, I'd like to welcome special guest, former teammate of mine to Rogue Bogues, David Anderson. The few nicknames, the Mayor of Frankston's the first one, and the other one is GQ. So, Pro, give him a warm welcome.
Dave, what's up, brother? How the fuck you doing today?
Doing pretty good. See, you're already dropping the F-bombs.
Oh, yeah.
It's good. Keeps it real.
No doubt.
So, Dave and I played together for numerous campaigns with the Boomers. I didn't know much about you at all until 2004 in Athens. So we'll get into it a bit later, but David had left Australia at a pretty early age, was kind of the unknown. I was just coming into the national team program, so he probably didn't know much about me. But the other nickname he had was GQ. And the reason why was pretty well spelled out. The first time I met him, he had the Ray-Ban aviators, the diamond earring, the frosted tips hair, blue eyes, just GQ.
You know about the frosted tips.
Yeah, what you'd see on the front cover of GQ. So that was your other nickname. But welcome to the show, Dave. What have you been up to lately, man? What's going on?
Nothing too much. I've just been laying low, keeping out of trouble. We're kind of in lockdown, so we can't really do too much around here. I've got some investments, things I'm looking after, but after the Melbourne United stint, grabbing another championship to the cabinet. Just been taking it easy a bit. So
yeah, by
family time.
Taking another championship, we'll just run through. So I didn't know, by the way, I didn't know your middle name was Emil.
Emil, yes, Danish after my grandfather, my dad's side.
And of course, you have a Danish passport, which we'll talk about later, which was very useful for you. But you're one of the most winningest exports when it comes to Australian basketball. And the reason why I want to talk to you and get you on the show is because outside of the basketball community in Australia, you're not really that well known because you played in Europe at a time where it wasn't as accessible to Australians to watch overseas. EuroLeague games aren't on TV. We'll run through where you've played. You see, obviously you started the Frankston Blues in the mid-90s. You went to the AIS. You've been the Wollongong Hawks in the late 90s, then go over to Kinder Bologna as how old were you? 17,
I was 18-year-old, signed with Kinder Bologna.
Not a word of Italian at that time?
Not a word when I started, but I have learnt and I still do speak fluently. So
Kinder Bologna, then on to Montepaschi,
Siena,
CSKA Moscow, FC Barcelona in 2008, 2009, then the Houston Rockets. You had an NBA stint at Houston, Toronto, and New Orleans for 2 to 3 years.
2 seasons.
Then went back to Siena.
Yeah.
Bankrupted him again after you left, of course. Fenerbahce, 12-13. SIG Strasbourg. Then you went to Asvel in France, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Back to Melbourne United. Back to Asvel again.
Yeah.
Illawarra Hawks, where we got to play against each other when I was with the Kings from 2018 to 2020. Finally. Back to Strasbourg again. Then the infamous return of the Frankston Blues, full circle, and then winning a championship with Melbourne United. Yeah. So a very storied career. And before you want to butt in, Pro, I'm just going to go through. This man's one of the most winningest gentlemen around Australian basketball. 2-time NBL champion. 3-time EuroLeague champion, all EuroLeague first team, Spanish League champion, 3 times Italian League champion, 3 times Italian Cup winner, Italian Super Cup winner, Italian League Finals MVP, Italian Cup MVP, 4-time Russian League champion, 3-time Russian Cup winner, Turkish Cup winner, Turkish Cup Final MVP, French League champion, French League All-Star Game, Albert Schweitzer Tournament MVP. So wherever you go, you seem to win, Dave.
Bit of a talisman, some people would say. I'm the lucky charm. A lot of teams probably did bring me in for that thing because, I know how to glue guys together, get everyone working on the same page, and it's worked well. Obviously, over the year, been fortunate. Great coaches, great players, great teammates, and just things blended together. So it's one of those things you just kind of do what you can and seize the opportunities. And I was lucky over my career just to be able to do it all. So,
yeah, Pro. What do you know about Dave from your scouting network?
Probably not.
God damn, I know too much about Dave, actually.
Oh, that's a good thing to hear.
Yeah, so when he played in Bologna, when I worked for Tim Grover, I worked out a guy named Rashad Griffith that was one of your teammates.
He was my roommate back in Kinder Bologna. Big 7-foot dude.
Yeah, so he was a big dude, teddy bear, went to Wisconsin, second round pick, Bogues. Never went to the NBA. One of the best players in the country in high school, and then played with David.
Yeah.
And David also played with Ginobili when he was over in Bologna. And I actually had him on my fantasy team. I'm the only fucking American in the history of America to play EuroLeague fantasy. I had him in. I got a love-hate thing with David. He saved me in 05, 06. because he averaged something like 15 and 6, I think.
Yeah.
So he was a cheap pickup, and he fucking produced like a motherfucker. The second time he fucked me and bent me over. Let me see. When he played for Barcelona, I was expecting big things. He did win a championship, no doubt about it.
He won a chip, but went to the Final Four. I balled out in that Final Four too. I had like 20 points on both
for a fantasy team.
We didn't win. I wasn't a huge fantasy. I know, I'm not a fantasy guy player. I'm more of a big time, get it done in the big games, stat lines, not really feeling.
Yeah, you're playing. I got nothing against your playing. You're a fucking solid player, pure winner. But on my fantasy league, you were great for me in 2004.
Yeah.
Not so great for me when you went to Barcelona. But, I mean, what I want to know, Bogues, seriously, and David, for me, like playing with Ginobili, playing with Rigadou, playing the CSKA Moscow with those great teams at Holden. Because when I started in basketball, David, I was a scout for the Boston Celtics, and I handled our international stuff. So I would watch about 15, 20 EuroLeague games a week, on VC, on tapes and DVDs and stuff. Yeah. And I loved that CSKA team that you were on. And then Bologna, I just followed before I got into the league, and just, playing, like, how was it to play with like Ginobili and those guys early on in your career as a young kid and sort of growing up through that sort of process?
Well, it was great. I mean, Ginobili back then, that was when he was coming up. He was just a young fella. He played in Reggio Calabria the season before, which is like a medium-level Italian league team, and they were actually made the playoffs, and we played against him in a 5-game series to go through. And that's when they kind of signed him after that. And he was just, he was young, he was learning the ropes, but he came out exploding that year. And, I think he was EuroLeague final MVP. And we won everything. We won the Italian Cup, the Italian League, and the EuroLeague. So it was a huge year, and to play with him then and see him, because he was growing up quick, and he wasn't he was a great person too. We used to eat pre-games every time before the game. We go to this little Italian restaurant near to where he was, and we'd always eat and stuff and catch up a lot. And it was cool. He was a real good guy to hang out with off the court as well as on the court. And yeah, just great working ethic. Great at, being a good teammate, never really demanded like things. It wasn't like a superstar like, oh, I need the ball 20 times. It was more like he just gets his work in and does what he needs to win. And the other guys on the team, like, Rashad, he was a superstar. I mean, for us, he was like the pillar. He's a big moving man, just killed it in the center. And I learned a lot from him because I had to bash up against him in training, and I was just a skinny, 6'11", 7-foot guy, and I had to stretch him out. It was like playing against Shaq, so you had to get creative to play against him in training. But actually, that year was a great. I was still young. I was 19, I think, that year, and we had a young team. We had Marko Jaric as well, one of the Yugoslavian superstars. He played in the NBA. Antoine Rigaudot, the king of France, we called him in Bologna. Yeah,
Bellinelli too.
Bellinelli was on the team. He was a young fella. He was only 16, I think, back then. So I've told people about that because they're like, oh, you played with Bellinelli. And I was like, yeah, he used to play way back in the day. So, all these guys I've played with along the time, and it's you see them go on, and you're like, wow, it's great. It's amazing to watch them step up and get better and better. So, but that team was special. Like I said, we won what do they call that? The King's Crown or whatever it is. I think it's the 3 championships, everything you can, and it was a crazy year. But and then that led into like other things, and obviously kept going strong. So yeah. Good times.
Yeah, that CSKA Moscow team too. Now you come with like what, Marcus Brown and Antonio Granger and Holden.
Yep, that was when I got there. The first year we stacked it up because we had the Final Four was in Moscow that year, and we actually lost the Final Four to Luis Scola and Tau Victoria, or they were called Tau Ceramica Victoria. That was their sponsor back then. It was in Moscow. I remember the semi-final. We lost the game, and man, you should have seen it. It was like D-Day. Everyone was just terrible. Like, guys were thinking the general manager or the director or president of the team came in after the game. He threw his phone against the wall, smashed it. Like, everyone was seeing, like, it was the whole world crumbled. And we only lost like 3 games the whole season, and 2 of them were at the Final Four. So they were just.
You were a super team.
It was a super team. Like, you should have seen. This was like some Rocky stuff, Drago, and they're testing him and stuff like that. We were doing all this crazy testing, like they had oxygen tanks on us. They were blood testing us every 3-4 weeks to make sure we were all good. And it was a hell of a ride that season. Like I said, we lost I want to say the 2-game, one in the top 16, and then like at the Final Four, we lost a couple. And the Russian League, I don't think we lost. We went on a 35-game winning streak through the start of the season. And it was, it was on. And it was actually a great year for me personally too. I was stepping up. I think I made EuroLeague All-Star 5 that year. But yeah, it was obviously disappointing to lose that Final Four and just crushed everyone.
Let's circle back, Pro. So I want to start this. You can get to your EuroLeague grilling later, but I want to start your journey just for there's a lot of kids that listen to the podcast. They have to mute out half a Pro, but they listen.
Kids be dropping F-bombs too, mate. You got to watch out. These kids have got some mouth on them now.
Yeah, we've blamed Pro for all of that.
Yeah.
No question.
So your journey wasn't a pathway taken by very many, especially back then, right?
Yeah.
Now maybe a little bit more, but it's still not really one that many Australian kids take. So you went to the AIS, you played a season professionally with the Wollongong Hawks, but I read that you had some pretty big college offers. And UCLA, Arizona, anyone else?
UCLA, Arizona. There was a couple others as well. I can't remember. Those are the big ones. I remember talking to them. Luke Olsen was the coach back then.
That was pre-signing with Wollongong, right?
This was pre-signing, but, for me, I kind of, NBL was pretty big back then too. In the 90s, you got to remember NBL was like big time. We were earning. I remember they brought in a special rookie cap trying to smother my money down.
The David Anderson rule.
Yeah, because I was like, I was competing against guys like Paul Gasol in Schweitzer tournament. I got the MVP that time, and he beat us because they won the game, the gold, championship game. But so I was, stepping up. My game was elevating, and I was getting interest overseas as well. So, and the EuroLeague. So then the NBL brought in this cap thing, 40 grand, cap, and I signed. I remember I had to get the deal done before midnight
before the cap came in.
Before the cap came in. And I don't know if you know, I signed with the Magic originally, Southeast Melbourne Magic, and then it all flipped on itself because the Magic merged with the Giants and to make the Titans, and I got squeezed out of that deal. Gorge was the coach. I remember he came down and visited me after it, and it was all doom and gloom and kind of, sorry, man. He still to this day apologizes and stuff, to my old man mainly. So, but so then I was off to Wollongong. But I had the chances to go to college ball, but for me, it was more, I wanted to become a pro. I felt like I was that kind of player. I didn't want to go to the college system and get stuck. I mean, I was a different kind of big too. I was more of a flexible big, I call it, like a stretch big. I could move, I could play more offense. I wasn't really a banger as such. And back then, the bangers were big. I'd always play against huge Americans that were just like shoulders wider than me, bodies heavier than me, just smashing against them. And I had to get real creative with my game just to succeed. So it isn't until recently, like, you get these long, lanky, skilled bigs. Yeah. It's changed. So for me, I didn't want to get stuck in that shoe hole, college system where I'd be like, you got to become a banger, you got to screen, roll,
which would have happened,
which would have probably happened. So I felt like that's why I took my trade to pro, and I didn't mind.
Were you close to college at all, or not really?
Nah, not really. I had a couple of conversations. Like I said, I didn't do any visits. I probably should have, because I hear they're hell of fun.
As a young fella,
but nah, I just kind of, it all happens pretty quick, and I kind of, just rolled out into being a pro. I felt like I wanted to, earn money and always had that kind of business hat on. So I was like, I'll earn some money. I don't really like school that much. I mean, I wasn't that guy who was going to school and academic and stuff like that either. So,
well, it's no secret, Pro, that Wollongong Hawks are still in financial trouble 20 years later after David Anderson's rookie contract.
Hey, man, that cost me money because I signed with the Magic. I could have signed with them originally, but I went to the Magic and then came back to them for a discounted price. So I ain't bankrupt them.
So then how did the whole going over Europe thing come about? Because it's kind of a strange deal. I'm sure they saw you at Schweitzer, but was that network created while you were in Wollongong or from the Albert Schweitzer tournament, or did you just?
Yeah, bit of both. Probably because I played a lot of tours with the junior teams. You probably did quite a few as well in Europe and stuff. So they see you and you get on the scouting reports. And when I chose my agent, I remember I could have gone with an Australian guy or this American, and originally it was Leon Rose. He's gone on to big things now. I think, he's the president.
Not return your calls anymore?
New York Knicks. No, he does actually. He's my man, because I used to always give him a bit of crap because, when I'd be overseas or, weathering down, I'd be like, oh, you don't want to talk to me, because he signed some big players originally. So, he had Eddie Jones, these guys, Carmelo, Chris Paul, these massive stars. So I used to call him up once in a while and be like, hey, man, you don't answer my calls. You always voicemail. called me back. But we still talk. Anyway, long story short, I got Leon Rose as my agent, and he had obviously the pass, the wings to spread to Europe and other parts of the world. And so basically as I turned pro, he knew that I could get a Danish passport, and a lot of the other teams around the world, my agent, my sub-agent, Kenny Grant as well, they worked in partnership, and they knew that I could become a European citizen or, play with a European passport, which means you're like a local.
Which is huge for teams, because back then, was it only 2 internationals
Two or even 2 Americans or 2, like Yugoslavia then and all those Eastern Bloc, well, they were all regarded as imports too when I first got over there. So you couldn't have now you can have like a couple Serbs or whatever and Croatian, and then...
So hugely valuable. If you didn't have that Euro passport, it probably would have been very hard to get over.
It would have been hard. I would have been an import. Like I know Matty Nielsen came over a few years down the track, and he was regarded as an import. But he was already killing it in NBL, being NBL MVP and blah blah blah. But for me, playing that, I was regarded as a European. So even on EuroLeague teams, I was European, and it just helped out a lot. And obviously, it also cultured me. I don't get it twisted. I mean, I'm Australian, but I have the European background. I got a lot of family in Denmark. So when I went to Europe, I was open to that. And that's probably one of the reasons why I was successful in Europe. I was culturally open. Like, I learned Italian. I tried to fit in every time I went to a different nation, like, Russia or France.
It's kind of an oxymoron being from Frankston.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's pretty, it is. But in saying that, you get out of Frankston, but you always go back. So it's a great part of the world. But no, it was one of those things. So for me, it was a totally different path, for me to go overseas in Europe. But it had few things to factor in. Obviously, the passport that came about in my first year in Wollongong. So around Christmas time, I think it was, or January. This is mid-season. We're pursuing my passport because my agent's saying, "Listen, you've got a lot of interest from overseas. You could sign a decent deal over there and stuff." So I was like, "All right." And then I was playing in the under-20 World Champs in 99. So I was, I just followed that a little bit further. And then towards the end of the season, I got my passport, and my agent secured this massive deal with Kinder Bologna, which was like a 4-year deal, for, I think it was like a couple $1 million or something, unheard of money. So it was like, I was like, wow, of course I'm going to go. And Kinder Bologna was like one of the best teams in Europe then. So it was a great chance for me to learn, for me to be, to grow as a player, and obviously earn some really good coin.
Yeah, and the culture piece I think is huge as well for kids. Learning the language, different foods.
Definitely.
You're more Euro to me than you are Australian, in my opinion.
Definitely.
I mean,
I've lived over there for 17, 18 years of my 23 years playing as a pro. So, yeah, I adjusted well to it. I've always been, it was a bit of advice from Coach Messina, actually. I remember sitting down the first year we got there, he put a list up on, these successful players and these not so successful ones. And he was like, the demeanor, the lesson here is these guys tried to learn Italian and try to fit into the culture. These guys had no chance, I hate to say it, but some of these Americans, they just come over, they want to earn a check and get out of there. Whereas for me, it was like, no, I signed a 4-year deal. I committed. I got a tutor. I got things. I was learning Italian. I was lucky I had my brother with me, Shuey, my 1-year older brother, lived with me while I was young. So kind of that kept me, level-headed as well. So all these factors come into it, and I enjoyed it. I really thrived in that kind of scenario. European basketball suited me a lot too.
Yeah, no doubt. And just with skills, the skill level that you had, it was just a perfect fit. But it's just a testament to I'd never heard of you as a kid. I mean, back then the internet wasn't really
we didn't have internet. Remember it was dial-up stuff back then.
Yeah. So
you didn't have things. I used to have to write letters to friends back in Australia. Writing letters, calling cards. There was no FaceTime or this kind of stuff. It was all pretty remote.
But then, the only reason I knew your name was just because it was on an AIS locker, really, because
with that bogus ass picture of you.
Yeah, all the lockers at the AIS they have every guy that's been there, and whatever locker you get, it has every guy that's had that locker. So we all
what
heard your name.
What number year are they at?
4. Yeah, it's number 4. I can't even remember.
Andrew Luke.
I changed halfway through, but I just remember we didn't really know the story. It wasn't really told to us about your journey, and like I said, I only ran into you in 2004 when you when
we met for the Olympics.
You joined us halfway through the Olympics. And we're like, who the hell is this dude? Because everyone we didn't know, and So, bro, we go to the 2004 Athens Olympics. It's my first year, and we're doing all this prep stuff, and Dave doesn't come to the prep stuff because you were in the midst of signing the CSKA deal, right?
I was playing finals with the Montepaschi Siena then. Yeah. We were winning the championship. It was their first time, second year in First Division Italian, and we're on top of the league, and we're in line to win the thing, and I'm balling out. So yeah, it was like we were going. I missed all the preparation.
We're wondering who the hell is this dude? And then you still made the 12 without coming to camp, essentially, because you made the pre-Euro tour.
Yeah, the Euro tour.
And everyone was like, "This guy must be really good." So I remember all the pub, and we never heard about you. And then that was the first time we'd met him.
I remember I remember it was like a training camp in Italy somewhere, in Pesaro or something. Yeah, it was. That, remember?
Yeah.
And we were out there. So yeah, I remember coming in, and it was like, I came off. Put things short, I was in the finals campaign, and I had the manager of the team telling me he wanted me to fly out like a day after the finals game. And I was like, are you serious? To Australia to come back to a camp? And I was like, bro, are you serious? Like, we're about to win the Italian championship, first time for this team, and it's massive, and I'm playing well. Like, and there's no way I'm going to jump on a plane for 24 hours, come there, training camp for like 5 days straight. And then come back with you guys 2 days later. I was like, I'll meet you here, but let me talk to, because Gorge didn't really know me much either. I mean, I think Shane Hill might have got in his ear a bit because, he knew Europe and knew what the hell was going on. And then when he saw that we won the championship and I was MVP of the final series, he was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I think we should really look at him. He's big time,
Yeah.
So, and we went to the Final Four. That's another thing that year with Siena. It was huge. That year for Siena, we did some crazy things. Like, Siena was, like I said, second year in Italian First Division. We went Final Four in Israel, and he won the Italian Championship. So it was a big year. And like I said, transitioning into that Olympic campaign was hard. And touche on you too. I didn't know jack shit about you. All I knew was you was some big dude playing in Utah, I think it was at the time. And I was like, oh, who's this guy? Like, look at it. Then we started playing, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, we had some battles. Yeah. Pro, you got anything?
Yeah, I think I call bullshit on this whole Italian thing. I just think he wanted to be closer to Gucci and fucking Armani and go, Mr. fucking GQ.
It's true.
Yeah,
well, I came out of Frankston, mate. You'd be proud. I didn't have no Gucci or nothing. I got to Bologna.
How do we explain Frankston to Pro?
Oh, wow. I don't know. It's hard to... It's actually a beautiful place to live, but it's pretty rough. I grew up with some questionable people, but,
So Frankston's about an hour from the city, or 50 minutes, as Dave says. 58 minutes, right?
Yeah, a lot of community houses, I suppose is the way to put it.
But it's in a beautiful part of Melbourne. It's on the water. There's a beach, but then there's like there's really rough parts of it.
Yeah, there is. There's rough parts and good parts, like anywhere. Exactly.
Yeah, like it's got a bad stigma.
Yeah, a lot of people hang shit on it. Like, I remember even Gorgon coming down to visit me after the whole, cut out of the deal thing. He was like, Frankston, oh God, is that even metro? Like, is that country? What are you on down there? And I'm like, it's regarded as metro, mate, and it's not that far and da-da-da. But yeah, everyone who comes down this way, they just say it's beautiful, and it is beautiful. It's on the beach and it's all that. But there is a lot of humble beginnings. Like, people are, regarded as wealthy.
South
there.
Central Melbourne, I guess.
Bit of drug problems as well in the community.
Had the legal drug house there. I don't know if it's still there.
I don't know, probably is. I mean,
there was a place you could shoot up legally, Pro. They had a little house, but it's kind of a suburb that has a bad stigma about it, kind of like Yobbo, which would be like hick kind of stigma
kind
about
of trailer park kind of stigma.
But it's on a beautiful part of Melbourne, and there's good parts and bad parts. And if you came and visited and I put you in Frankston, you'd think it's beautiful because you wouldn't know the stigmas.
And it is, and there's, like you said, there's some bad areas which give it the bad stigma, and there's some bad apples that ruin it for a lot of others. But in hindsight, like, I wouldn't grow up anywhere else because it's a great little spot. But some people are a bit like, oh, I wouldn't drive around Frankston late at night kind of thing, and I'm like, well, it's fine. Doesn't worry me.
Yeah, I heard when you got Uber in Melbourne, I guess you got an armored car option, so you don't get shot.
That's only in Moscow, mate.
And leading on to Moscow, actually, that's what I want to ask you. You've got some, you had some crazy experiences, obviously playing all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a few of your have you had any life-threatening experiences like with fans pre or post game or on the road or anything that you thought like, ooh, this is a bit kind of testy, like I want to kind of, we need to stay in the locker room for 30 extra minutes or anything like, because I've heard stories from like Alex Maric has some crazy stories from Serbian
I know where
games.
you got Serbian games. They're a bit wilder there. I mean, yeah, you get the crazy European fans, but it's not really life-threatening. I mean, it'd take a fair bit to rattle me in that sense. But yeah, no, I remember a couple of times, like we used to always get police escorts to games. Like a lot of people didn't know about this stuff. Like we'd be flying through cities like Athens with police escorts or, you know, bus and stuff. And, you know, because when you're playing against Olympiacos and Panathinaikos, they're always, you know, slamming. They've got the flares at the game. They're throwing coins, heating up crap, you know. So you always got to be on your toes. You don't want to cop a coin in the head because that'll put you out for most of the game. Especially nowadays. They'd probably have you do that concussion testing thing. You'd be done for like 2 weeks in Australia.
Yeah.
But no, I've seen teammates cop them in the head and stuff like that. And you always got the barricades. But nothing where like a fan jumped over and wanted to fight me because, you know, that usually doesn't end well. Like, you know, look what happened to Ron Artest, that kind of shit. So.
Yeah, well, Shane Hill tells a story that he was it Greece or Italy? Did he play in Italy? He played
Italy as well.
Italy
for
or
a little
Greece,
stint.
and he was with a team that was on the brink of relegation. And he said that
Imola.
Yeah, they had their final game. They had to win to stay alive, to stay in the first division, and they lost.
Oh, jeez.
And he says they've gone out to the car park to drive out, and it was one of those car parks where there was an elevated part for the fans to walk around, and the car park was kind of under.
Oh, God.
And they all had eggs. And he says as soon as players from their own team were walking out, they were just getting pelted with eggs.
Really?
And they got to jump in their car real quick, full of eggs, and then as they drove out, pelted with eggs. So like, that's, you know.
The fans are passionate. I get to that. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say we never got pelted with eggs. I mean, there was always times when they give you crap and stuff like that. But the funny one in Italy, we used to crack me up at the start of the season. So we played in Reggio Calabria again, the one that Ginobili played in. The first game of the season, we go and start the game, you know, circled around, jump ball. All of a sudden, all the fans start launching dunny roll on the court, like toilet paper, just thousands, like hundreds and thousands of these rolls of toilet paper just keep flying on for like, 5 minutes. And I guess the floor sweepers are ready for it because they're like out there quick with their floor wipers, just pushing them all off the court and and it delays the game for like 15, 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden, as soon as you're about to go again, someone else throws another one just to.
And what was the mindset? Was it tradition or something?
It's just a tradition, I think. It's like for the start of the season, It wasn't like, a bad thing. You don't feel bad. But like I said, they're a lot more passionate. They're chanting, they're singing, they're doing crazy things. Probably the scary one I do remember kind of was going to play the Final Four in Israel with Siena that year of the Athens Olympics, 2004. I remember rocking in there. So we flew. Our fans didn't go because this is when Israel was in war pretty much. And we rocked in. We had separate buses straight off the plane that had snipers and full security detail with machine guns escorting us off the plane. Passport checks right at our bus. Team bus was right there. So this is Final Four. So you got the 4 best EuroLeague teams in. And we're going along the freeway and they're shutting off everything like we're the presidents of bloody Israel coming through. And they get to the hotel. We're staying at the Hilton down on Tel Aviv or whatever it is. And it's like, yeah, you see the snipers up on the top and you're kind of thinking to yourself, Jesus, what the hell have we gotten into here? Nothing bad ever happened. It was just like, they had to put on the measures in case. So
it's still confronting though, right? Coming from Australia, we don't see a gun ever, really, unless
you're seeing like snipers and stuff on the top of buildings and shit like this. So that was like, it was eye opening. Definitely, there was a lot of those kind of things. But in terms of actually like going to myself, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Well, not so much die, but we'll put sauce on it. But just as far as like, hey, we've been recommended to, like I think Alex played a game where they're like, you guys need to stay in the locker room for an hour after the game. Don't come out.
Yeah,
we're going to wait for
that. Would have been that partisan.
Yeah, we're going to wait for fans to clear out. I know a friend of mine. I think it was Damir Makota. He said that when he played for Tabona Zagreb, whenever they'd play in Serbia against Partizan or Red Star, and they'd bus over, there would be cars at the border of the countries that would follow the bus and be throwing rocks at him through their car, like really hanging out of the car windows, pelting rocks.
Yeah.
He said he then got to the hotel in Belgrade and they had their ultra fans on the street with drums and the whole night.
Really?
So these dudes couldn't sleep. He said the whole night they were chanting, and like, police didn't even care.
Yeah.
And they're just chanting the whole night before game day. So these guys are getting like 1 hour sleep, like rolling into the game, and just notorious for
crazy shit. Yeah. We got that a bit in Turkey as well with Istanbul,
fire alarms.
Fenerbahce. Yeah, they always do, like trying to disturb you. We used to get the prank calls to the hotels too. So you'd be trying to have a siesta on game day, and then you get these guys calling up and just like screaming down the phone, "No fucking Anderson, hope you have a bad game, I'll kill you." You're like, what the hell, dude? You hang up, and then like, how does a hotel let the call come through? I don't know. But anyway, just like those little kind of pesky things, it didn't really worry me too much. So but yeah, the fans are good. I like the passionate fans like that. They were fun. Like some of the way they chant, the way they sing your songs and do that kind of stuff, it really makes you want to play better and do better. I mean, it's a double-sided sword, because then if you do lose,
they're passionate too.
They're ripping you one, and they're telling you you literally can't go out and eat and stuff like that. But then if you win, they're like, "Oh, you're the king!" Like, so it's like, wow, yeah, this is awesome. But yeah, some places you got to be a bit wary of like crazy fans. I heard the Greek ones are probably the worst. Like the Olympiakos Panathinaikos rivalry was massive.
Yeah.
You would have heard about that, wouldn't you, bro?
Yeah, for sure. I just got back from Greece a few weeks ago, and they say it's just deadly. Like those fans in those games are ridiculous. I remember in Italy, actually, in 2004, I want to say it was, I went over to scout when I was in Boston. I worked the Treviso big man camp and then the Euro camp.
Yep.
Yeah, in the Euro camp. A couple of stories out of that. First, we went to see Benetton versus Carlos Delfino. I forgot the team he played for. He might have played Bologna. I'm not sure the team.
Yeah, but anyway, he was 42 though. He was in 42 at Bologna.
42 though.
Cross-town rival of what my team was. Kinder was Kinder in 42 though.
It was a playoff game. It was like middle of June and like late June actually. And they had armored guards, Bogues, in the visitor section, all the way down the aisle, down the aisle.
Yeah, that's
and then with machine guns, and there was guys with like no shirt on, painted faces, just giving the arm and finger to the opposing fans, and didn't even watch the fucking game.
No,
and then after the game, they threw M80s on the court. We had to get escorted out. I thought I was going to die, actually.
Right.
I mean, it was the scariest I've ever been, besides missing a meal a couple of years ago. That was probably the scariest I've ever been. Ever. Like M80s, like borderline dynamite on the courts.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
They're true.
Great game.
I remember they'd always section off a part of the stadium. So you had the big, 5,000, 6,000 seat stadium, and they'd always section off a part for the rival fans, because they'd always come in buses, and they'd usually be getting drunk as hell, high as hell, and come into the game just ready to go. And so they come in, and like we'd be warming up, and you hear them just coming in with drums and stuff, chanting. Guys got their shirts off, especially I bet you this one in playoff game. It's June, it's hot. I'm sure they're just trying to make trouble pretty much. So they put the riot police on either side. I'm trying to box them in, keep them away from the other fans, because they call them like the ultras. Like in football, they're even more crazy, I feel. But yeah, they used to go.
They keep a massive gap of seats, right? So they can't get, because they try to get to each other eventually.
Yeah,
don't they?
They try usually the ultras will be this end, and then our other ultras will be the other end, so they can't think. But they start singing at each other, swearing, and then they usually try and meet up in the car park afterwards. Like their buses, like the ones that the opposition fans come in, they come in like escorted as well. They usually have a couple of police cars with them to stop them getting messed up. It's pretty full on, but it creates an air of like uncertainty about it. Makes you appreciate the game.
How passionate it is.
Yeah,
the closest I experienced to that was the Athens Olympics, where we fucking happened to manage to draw Greece in Athens for the opening game of the Olympics.
That was crazy, right? That was bullshit.
You get spat at and get run out of the tunnel. That was my first experience, like in real Euro. I did college, where it's like it's abusive in college and it's more creative, like
heckling.
In college is more they'll make a sign of like hang shit about a kangaroo, like it's just you're just like, oh yeah, well, who gives a fuck? But that was like,
they used to call me Kangarino di Merda in Italy, the opposition team 42, which means shitty kangaroo or whatever it is.
Yeah, straight away,
Straight
kangaroo puns. But that's Europe was, but man, that was a whole nother deal. And I was like, it'd be great to play in front of, but it's hard to play against sometimes where they're just. They're pretty intimidating, and you got shit getting thrown at you.
Oh, yeah. So there was one game I remember in Italy, this because they're coming to me now. In Can 2, I remember, and the fans, the ultras were sitting behind the basket. So you can imagine, like, we were down a little bit and they were up behind the basket. And so we're playing in fourth quarter. We're up by like 4 or 5 points or something. It's a close game. We should have been up by like 15. And then I'm shooting free throws. And the fans, like, these guys are jumping on the bloody support of the basket. So the basket is going up and down. And the ref's giving me the ball. And I get the ball and I'm looking at the ring and it's going up and down. I'm like, ref, what the fuck? He looks at me like, what you want me to do? I was like, what the fuck? So I'm shooting at this bloody thing. I actually make 1 of 2 and we're still up by like 5. We end up winning. But I was like, what the hell? Where in the world could like, these fans are just literally jumping up and down, screaming names at me, you know.
Just moving the basket.
Yeah, just moving the basket. I'm like, ref, can't you see the basket's moving? You need to get them out. So, but no, they're crazy, the fans over there and stuff like that. It's a different thing, but it creates fun. I mean, it makes you more
good atmosphere.
Passionate. Yeah, concentrated.
And then I guess going on from Europe, I read some comments that you made previously.
Yeah.
You then, an NBA was always a dream of yours as a kid.
Yeah, definitely. And like, you know, everyone, you would have experienced growing up, you wanted to be an NBA star. I mean, that's
not really. See, I was the opposite. I thought it was like a unicorn. I thought it was like this pipe.
Too far.
I thought it was like great. Like, I'm at home. Oh yeah, I'd love to be in the NBA, but like, I didn't think it was realistic for me. I thought like, if someone pays me money in the NBL, I'm fucking happy, right? So I didn't really think it was an achievable dream, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's the same. I've always told my stories. It just kept raising the bar. I never thought I'd be a pro. Never thought I'd go to college, or never thought I'd do these things, and just kind of kept going.
But I guess that time came in, what was it, 2009?
Yeah.
And you were in that unique situation, similar to probably Jock Landale right now. He'd be the current guy where you had to essentially leave money on the table to take that experience.
Well, yeah, I was balling back then, so I don't know if you know the full story. Like, I got drafted by Atlanta back in 2002 when I was 22. That's the eligibility then. And drafted in the second round, so they held my rights. But then I started really balling in 2004, the year of the Olympics. I started balling and signing bigger deals. I signed a huge deal in Seska. Ended up staying there for 4 years. And everyone was talking. There was always talk about me maybe going to NBA, especially after that first season. But I was like, I'm earning big money. I'm going to take a pay cut. I have to wait to, the veterans camp in September, October. And I'm like,
can't leave that money on the table.
Yeah, I can't leave. And then I'm not guaranteed anything. I might get an NBA minimum, which would be taking like a $2 million pay cut. And I was like, oh, no, screw this. I'm just going to ball out and do my thing, and I'm enjoying this and winning with Seska. So it wasn't until Barcelona, playing at that really high level for 5 years and winning a lot, and then my agent Leon worked some magic and got the Houston Rockets on board to sign like a 3-year thing with a trade with Atlanta and stuff like that. And it wasn't it was still a pay cut. I still probably took $1 million off my salary just to go play NBA, which is usually the other way around. You think NBA, you think you get paid to play in NBA. So, but it was a dream of mine, like growing up, and I always see other players and you wanted to aspire to it. And I didn't want to leave, no box unchecked. So I was like, no, I'm pretty comfortable financially. I've invested a lot of money and I've done really good. So I was like, no, I'll take this punt and go over to America and see if I can make it. So,
yeah, it's a sliding door moment. It's similar to Jock. Jock was getting massive offers from Turkey and a few other clubs. Yeah. And all in all, he's got a 1-year guarantee with a partial in his second, and he's potentially leaving €1 million on $1 million USD, which would be tax free as well.
It's true, exactly.
On the table. So it's for people out there. It's a sliding door moment where sometimes you have to give it up to have that experience. How did you were only in the NBA for a couple of years or 3 years?
Yep.
How was that experience for you? I mean, what did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about your game? Talk us through all that.
It was great. I mean, obviously I went to Houston. I was kind of replacing Yao Ming, because he was injured. He had a bad foot. And so we're trying to help out in that regard. I mean, totally different kind of player as well. So, but it was good, coming from Europe and you go to an NBA and it's like, they look after the players really well. Europe's a bit more of a dictatorship. The coach dictates when you eat as a team, you got to do this, got to do that. There's no thing. NBA is all on you pretty much. And I was cool, and the funny one was going to the rookie camps and stuff like that. I was 29 years old. I've earned a boatload of money. I've invested it. I'm probably more mature than any of these other guys in the room. And here we are hearing about groupies and how you got to worry about girls and stuff. And I'm like, well, I kind of got my missus already. I'm already sorted. I don't need to hear all this crap. And they're telling you about investing in property. Don't do this, da, da, da. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So that was 3 days wasted of my life when I went to New Jersey for that. But after that, getting to Houston and meeting my new teammates, like I had a guy, Luis Scola, who was an international Argentinian, the Don of Argentinian basketball. Shane Battier was another real good teammate of mine. So I played with these guys, and then Chase, we'd always go out and eat on the road, and it was good. The team, was quite well. We clicked pretty well, and but the NBA is such a beast. It just, you play every game, and I remember in Europe you'd have a big game and you can kind of milk it for a week or two. You'd be like, yeah, I'm good. I kind of don't need to be too concentrated in the next one. NBA, you play one good game and then it's like, you're feeling on top of the world. You want to talk to people about it. You're like, shit, I just got 17 points or whatever. I remember. And then it was like, you get on the team bus and everyone's already talking about the next game tomorrow night. And it's just like, shit, like, you really don't celebrate it too much. You kind of monotone. And I realize that's what the NBA is a bit like. You just got to keep at a steady pace and go about work, and you have a big game this night and then the next night you're playing against another huge name. So you're like, wow, it just kind of, it's a hard league to succeed in. And I take my hat off to those guys, the superstars who play 35 minutes a game, night in, night out. I don't know how they do that. So for me, it was a bit of an adjustment, and I thought I did pretty good, but obviously got swallowed up in that trade stuff and things like that.
Yeah, and that's probably that's your point of you can never get too high or too low in an NBA season, right?
It's so tough, man, like for players in your situation, because here you are 29, you've done a lot already on the international scene. You're a seasoned pro in that end, but you're still trying to get your NBA legs together and to sort of figure some things out. And like you said, you can't go through that. You can't get too high or too low because you got to survive every day. And you got to make a name for yourself a little bit. And, it's a different situation. We've had, Yeah,
it was hard, learning it and just adjusting to that whole thing. And you get the rookie treatment too, because you're like, from the refs, like you get a couple rough calls, and, you're going up against superstars every other night, and they scout you a lot better probably, and they're understanding your tendencies as you get going. But yeah, I had my moments. And
did you get rookie hazed?
Rookie hazed.
Do they have
I had to do. You can. You probably YouTube my ass. The dodgy Houston Rockets dancing. They made us doing like
29-year-old.
Yeah,
what was it? 12-year pro at the time.
Oh mate, it was crazy. I was like, what the fuck? So we're doing dancing and even like we did have to sing the national anthem in front of like our, what do you call it, high corporate sponsors, and then like they said, the dance off in front of all the fans, like 5,000 fans and stuff like that. But it wasn't too much. We didn't like get popcorn in my car or any crazy shit like that. I mean, it was pretty low key for me. There was a couple other younger rookies as well, so they kind of copped it a bit more. So, but yeah, it was an adjustment, but it was fun and it was great. NBA lifestyle is awesome. Like, you're flying around things. It's kind of real. It's all happens really fast for you. So you kind of just got to take a deep breath at times and, get your legs under you, because it just you can get swallowed up pretty quickly. But I really enjoyed it, and it definitely grew me as a player as well. Learning the 3-point line as well, the NBA 3, that was far compared to Europe back then. It was another bit. So, but I adjusted to that pretty quickly.
What you got, bro?
The day to day, David, dealing with that and not really, because you were on 1-year deals, David. Was that your deal?
My original one was a 2+1 with Houston. So I was thinking I was going to be there 3 years. Dumbass David was here.
Yeah, sure.
Signed a deal for 2+1. So I'm thinking 3-year deal. Yep, I'm here for good. I even bought a house in Houston like that.
Oh, wow. Did you?
Yeah. I thought I was there. I didn't know. And then I came to find out that Houston is a wheel and dealing team. Daryl Morey loves to wheel and deal. And I was like,
oh fuck, yeah.
So that.
Actually, Bogues, David doesn't want to tell us this, but his first NBA jersey, instead of Anderson on the back, it said player to be named later on his jersey. So, because they knew it.
Probably right.
Yeah, it's tough, dude. It's tough. Like I did that. I was director of player development with the Dallas Mavericks for 6 years. I've dealt with development for a long time, and it's hard, man, because especially if it's not tilted in your favor, if you're not a lottery pick, I mean, it's hard enough if you're a late first round first round pick. Now you're talking about a 20, like to sort of get your legs under you, get a real fair shot at staying with a team. It's got to be fucking tough. You're 29. You've already made great money, and probably won 27 championships before then.
Yeah,
like it's tough. Like it must have been tough for you, man.
It was hard just to get in the rotation. I was kind of fortunate because Yao was out, so that left a big gap for minutes to be played. And I thought I had big moments too. I remember one in LA when we beat the Lakers in LA, and I played a really good game. I had like 17 points and 8 boards or something. And, like I said, we got the big win. So there was moments where I was good and stuff, but the consistency of the NBA was probably the thing that I struggled with the most, is like, just being able to back up and do things like that, because I'm more of like a big game, player, and then I'd have my moments, in the next few games, and I'd step up again kind of thing. So, but the NBA was a challenge, and sticking in that rotation was hard. And then I got an injury in my back that year in about January, Feb, and I had a really bad sciatica problem. So that kind of hindered me. Obviously, I didn't finish the season with the Rockets, and then I had to do a lot of rehab over that off season. And that's when they acquired Patterson from the draft. And then I got they told me you could come back and try and earn your way in rotation, but I don't foresee, like, you'll get your money, basically, they said, because I was like, oh, you better pay me. And they were like, no, you'll get your money regardless. But if your agent can find something better, maybe pursue it. So that's when I went to Toronto and settled in with them for a little stint.
Was that with Bargnani there?
Bargnani was there, yes, he was there. Yeah. He was our starting big guy, so he was there. So the Italian connection. Calderone, I remember he was another international. Yeah, then we had Bosh. No, Bosh wasn't there. No.
He just left to Miami.
Yeah, we had a couple. So
super team, that's right.
Yeah. So we had who else was? DeMar DeRozan was there.
Oh, okay.
Sonny Weems, Kyle Lowry was there. So
was solid. That was a start.
No, Kyle Lowry was in Houston. Sorry, then he came up later. I'm trying to think. Who was it? Jared Jack. Yeah, Jared Jack was there because I got traded with him down in New Orleans.
Bogues, it's funny. And internationally, everywhere he went, he won. In the NBA, everywhere he went, the superstar went out of town. So, he had a sort of reverse effect when he got to the States.
Yeah.
He chased Yao Ming out of town, chased Chris Bosh out of town. It's pretty fucking good, man.
Chris Paul?
Chris Paul, he was there. He was
almost,
solid.
Yeah.
A couple of years later, I had enough of you, so he left.
Yeah, he was actually all right. I liked playing with Chris. He was a good guy to play with, but it was fun. But like I said, the NBA was cool. But the bad side, the reason why I had to leave or left the NBA, a lot of people might not know this, is because we went into lockout that year. It was 2011.
That's right, yep.
NBA went into lockout.
2011, yeah.
And they didn't know what was going on. And I was like, oh, shit, here. And then for me, I was 31 and the London Olympics were coming around 2012. And I was like, man, I want to be performing well for them and stuff like that. I don't want to, think. So I didn't know. New Orleans didn't really want me.
You had an option at that point, right?
There was an option on the table. So I was like, listen, the lockout went until January that year. I think it was like it went on a while.
It went till January. Went till December 6th. I think was the first day back.
Yeah, I remember it went on for a while. So in my mind, and I had like this big offer from Siena again to go back, and I was going to start earning big money again, more money than was in NBA. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to go back to Europe. I know I'll play. I know I know what I'm doing.
Find your rhythm again.
Siena they had ambitions to win the whole EuroLeague again. So we were like gunning for it and everything. They laid out a lot of money. So I kind of said, okay, I'm going to go back there and try and apply my trade there. And hopefully I'll get re-offered once the NBA kicks back up again. So I went back to Europe, and then London Olympics came around and I started, I did really well there, but then Siena went bankrupt. Which kind of screwed me, but then I got
transferred. It was owned by a bank, right?
They were owned by Montepaschi di Siena. It's a bank.
Yeah.
So we had the thing, and the
financial crisis.
The president and his wife were in close with them, and then they sold out to some other big financial firm, and there was all discrepancies in the payout, and it was a pretty scary time. So they kind of on the down low said, "Listen, we know you got 2 more years on your deal, but we really don't have the money to pay you." So we highly recommend that you and your agent try and
find something else.
Get something else. And I was kind of like, oh, fuck, I'm on my high horse. I was like, nah, you owe me. I want to stay. I don't want to move again. I've just been moving 3 years in a row or 4 years in a row. And I was like, nah, I'm going to stay. And then so then I went to the London Olympics, and I still had this contract with Siena. And I played pretty good because, unfortunately, you weren't there.
Yeah.
But I was starting center. Bainesy was coming along then, but I was starting center. So, and I played pretty well, and I was hoping to get another opportunity in the NBA, whether it be vets camp or minimum or something like that. But nothing actually eventuated, and then Fenerbahce offered me my contract from Siena to buy it out, all that. So I ended up going across to Turkey instead, which was a good move. I mean, same kind of thing. They wanted to win and pump things up a bit.
Team,
yeah, so it was fun. But yeah, the journey was hard. Going from the NBA back to Europe, obviously, it wasn't all roses. I mean, yeah, my wife didn't like it as much either. She appreciated the NBA life.
Yeah, I can imagine, yeah.
It's a lot more nicer over there. And then you go back to Europe and you're squabbling with your team about, the sink doesn't work or something like this. And it's like, they're not listening to your wife when she says this doesn't work. So it's like, yeah, every little thing's a pain in the ass for them. Whereas NBA, you get treated, you need shit done, you get it done. So,
yeah.
But, yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed my time in the NBA. Made some good relationships and obviously some good networks as well. So,
any money stories, David, as far as like in Europe, like crazy money stories as far as not getting paid, having to chase guys down? Well,
Monty Paschi still owe me probably about 200,000 euros. So if you want to go pursue some off President Fernando Minucci, you can go ask him because, I've lost a lot. I actually tell this to the young guys when they ask me about going to Europe and stuff. I say, yeah, it's a risk. Like, you might not get all your money, but at the end of the day, you'll probably end up with more in your pocket, even if you come back with half your money. So
that's the thing. The paper, there's the paper contract, and then you got to kind of
you got to wheel and deal and
mentally think I'm not going to get all that.
Well,
right?
yeah, exactly, and a lot fluctuates on performance. So luckily, I was winning a lot, so I was getting a lot of these things. And even when we were winning, sometimes you wouldn't get into bloody paychecks. So you'd be like, "Where's the bonus? It's supposed to come." Oh yeah, it's coming. You're like, bro, we just won the championship. You should be happy. You should be paying it straight away. They're like, oh, it's coming. But yeah, the teams are like that. Like I know Bologna lost a bit of money there when they went full bankrupt.
When I was in Greece, they told me the first words out of anyone who's born in Greece is tomorrow, meaning I'll pay you tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I'll pay you tomorrow.
Yeah, that's Italian for domani.
Yeah, they said a great story, though. I forgot what team it was, but they owed players a shitload of money, and they said they weren't going to practice. I said, all right, we'll pay you. So they brought them down. They do this all the time. They paid the players before practice. So, of course, where the fuck are you going to put your money? They put it in the locker. So they sent somebody from the team down to steal all the fucking money out of their lockers.
Oh, that's
once
dope,
they fucking paid them.
Shit, I'm taking that bag of money. I'm going home. I'm putting it I'm training with my socks strapped to my body or something.
You're swallowing it in a condom like you're fucking smuggling drugs through the fucking over the fucking border.
I was different. That's the Greek style. I know I've heard from other teammates. I won't mention names because I don't want to put them in trouble. But they have to the cash payments coming through. Like you got to sleep with it under your pillow. You're worried with a baseball bat kind of thing. Like fortunately, a lot of my teams they were pretty good, and so you didn't have to worry too much about the cash payments.
And the problem with Europe, the process to even appeal not being paid is used. It's gotten a bit better with FIBA, but it goes through a court tribunal pro. I'm not sure if you're aware, and then it can take years upon years. You got to pay.
3 to 5 years, they say, is a turnaround if you appeal them. Like you might win. You don't know.
And then if it gets close to being unfavorable for the team, they then end up just paying you. But it's been 4 or 5 years fighting the fucking shit, and they know most players are going to be in a different country or back in the US or Australia. They're not going to fight it. So they just got away with it for decades.
Yeah, definitely. Like back in my days, I remember, there was some offers on the table from Greece before. And then like my agent was like, listen, if you do go to Greece, we're going to set up a trusted account where they've put the money already in there and you withdraw it every month for the thing. So they can't, just screw you. It'll be there. Like, because he was like thinking we all knew they weren't going to pay. Even when I went to Russia, I was worried, like, I wasn't going to get my money and stuff.
Big club though.
But CSKA was a massive club. It was like an NBA team. I realized that when I got there.
But, CSKA's the best.
But before I got there, I was like, ooh, I don't know. Like Russia, everyone was, Cold War stuff. Everyone's like, oh, Russia. And I was like a pioneer too. Like no other Aussies had been. A lot of the Europeans hadn't been. So I went over there in, 04, 05 and signed a big deal. And I was like, it was cool. I got up more of my money and they offered me more the next year, and that's when Messina came over from Italy, and a couple of my teammates from that Kinder Bologna era came over, and we kind of made a new clique there, and we win EuroLeagues and stuff. So But yeah, the money definitely in Europe it's harder to come by. Like, it's not like NBA. NBA, you get your check every month. It's guaranteed.
Especially if you get hurt too in Europe. That's the other thing.
Oh, yeah, you get hurt in Europe.
You probably didn't have any situations where you got hurt and you got...
No, I did. Well, that was one time in Italy. That was before the Athens. It was a year before, I think, we would have met. I did my shoulder. It was 2002, 2003 season. So I dislocated my shoulder. I was playing with a dislocated, or what do they call it, subluxation of the back, where it'd pop in and out in the game. If I go up for a hard layup or a dunk or something, and someone smacked down on it, it would pop out and I'd be like in oodles of pain and have to stop. Carried it for like a year and a half. And then happened in, Christmas time that year, 2002, popped out again. The doc was like, no, you need to do surgery. Your ligament's too far. So I got it repaired, surgery in Italy, went back home for a bit, came back, was rehabbing all the thing. And that was the year that the team actually went bankrupt in Bologna, and guys weren't getting paid from December or November. So no one was getting checks and everyone was singing. And the old Domani or tomorrow thing was coming into full effect like this. They sacked the coach. They changed his thing. They were doing all this crazy stuff. And I was actually injured. So I was thinking to myself, shit, I ain't going to get nothing of this. Like, I was just like, fuck, this is a disaster. And I had 2 more years on my deal with bigger money. So long story short, I basically got 30% of my year's salary that year. Signed for in Siena in the summer of 2003, right a month or so before the season started, because I was like still had a contract with Virtus, and they weren't officially bankrupt yet. They were going into second division or something like this. So I was like, oh God, I didn't want to give up all the money. And they were like, oh, we won't be able to pay you that amount. But and then Siena came to the party and said, listen, we'll pay you this amount, which is still a lot less, half what I should have been getting paid. And then I'm signing with them, knowing that they were trying to go to EuroLeague. They were in EuroLeague. They were trying to make Final Four and build and win the championship. And luckily, I took the pay cut, and I was probably the most highest paid performing player. I mean, underpaid performing player for them. And it worked out well, because then I signed a huge deal with CSKA. So, it was one of those things. Europe is like that. You just
it's just hard, like, to plan for. If you had a mortgage in Australia,
you wouldn't want to bet your money on stuff like that. You just got to kind of roll with it and deal with it, and it is what it is.
Just to wrap up, what was out of your whole careers from 1995 Frankston Blues juniors to most recently Melbourne United? What was the most fulfilling part? And it doesn't have to be money wise. Doesn't have to be just the most fulfilling, enjoyable part of your career. Out of those last 20 years?
Enjoyable? I mean, you obviously, when you look at it, the Olympic stuff always stands out. I mean, that's always great from where I stand. But that on a professional side, probably, I mean, I really loved Italy. So winning that Triple Crown as a youngster, with the guys like Ginobili and all them, I always remember that. I'll remember that. That was an amazing time for me to win those kind of things. But it's hard to pinpoint one exact thing. I mean,
I'll give an example. Like for me, I haven't really spoken about this a whole lot. It would have been before I turned professional. So it would have been like AIS college for me was the most purest form of basketball, because money wasn't involved. There wasn't all the hidden. So it just felt
hidden
like
agendas and stuff.
Just felt like it was just pure basketball, where you're just going out to play basketball. You're not thinking about marketing and sponsorships and all that kind of stuff. So it just felt which is kind of national team-ish in a way.
That's where the national team for me was kind of like that, because you didn't get paid, or you didn't get
You're nothing. Not playing to get paid.
Some guys even paid to play. So it's like full true love of the game, and the brotherhood that comes with it was amazing for me. But yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of the steps along the way were great brothers. Like I said, I was fortunate. I've met good teammates all along the way. But yeah, going back, like basketball, you fall in love with it at a young age. I remember the battles with my brothers out the front of my yard in Frankston. Those are the ones where I fell in love with the game and got the passion about it and stuff like that. But then, playing with the junior national teams, those ones always reflect, in my reflections too, like, where you're growing as a player and you're starting to get better and better, playing against at the Schweizer tournament, being the MVP of that and being a pivotal part against the guys like Gasol, I was like, when I look back and I go, geez, I actually was pretty good as a junior. In my mind back then, I didn't think I was going to be a star. I didn't think I was being anything. But I was like, now when I look back, I go, oh yeah, that was pretty cool. And then probably the biggest one was the step going to the NBA. I reckon that was one of the ones when I checked that box, that kind of like fulfilled me a lot. Because I'd won a lot in Europe. I've won EuroLeagues. I was financially sound. Like I said, I didn't do it. It wasn't a financial decision for me. I kind of it was, if anything, was detrimental in that. I went against a lot of other people's recommendations. Like, my dad probably was like, "Oh, you could sign a bigger deal. Why do you got to take less money?" Like, And I was like, "No, I need to check this box." And it kind of was in my mind. I was like, "No, I need to go do this." And I went over there and I had the opportunity and I played a bit. Obviously I would have loved to have been there for 5 or 10 years.
Or retiring and not doing it would have just killed you, right? Like if you had, yeah.
I think so, true. Like and that would be my advice to Jock too. Like, go for it, because this one, you don't want to leave no stone unturned in my eyes. So I had to give it a shot, and that was fulfilling to go over there and have some decent big games in my eyes. I was like, yeah, this.
You step foot on an NBA court, regardless of when and how, doesn't matter. I mean, there's only it's a unique club now, and it's getting bigger and bigger, but there's only 15, 20 odd guys that can say that have, and you actually played in games that were vital minutes, weren't just,
That's where you feel like that one, that's where it stands out to me. Like that Lakers game when we won there, it was Kobe, it was all, I think it was like the big nuts. So it was one of those moments you go, well, yes, this is what I aspired to as a kid. I remember writing it on my wall as a kid, like one day I'll play in the NBA, and, just as what kids do, graffitiing the wall kind of thing. And then to think of that I can still see it written on my wall now when I reflect and I go, shit, I actually did achieve that. And that was the greatest, sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah. And just to finish on a downer, what was the toughest part of that 20 years? What was something that stands out about? Did you have any, years or moments where you wanted to give up, or through injuries, or just had enough? I got homesick at times, so sometimes I was like, fuck, I just want to go home for 2 months.
Oh, there's definitely a homesick time.
But did you have any years that stood out where you were turning points where you really, because everyone thinks it's 20-year career, everything was great and easy, and David Anderson's winning 23 cups and comes back to the NBL, made a lot of money. It's just he's living life in the fast lane. But there's moments for all of us, years, sometimes months, rehabs, whatever it is that hit us between the eyes. I mean, can you give us an example of one of those?
Definitely. I mean, there's a few. I mean, over my career, I've suffered multiple really bad injuries. Probably the one that sticks out most to me is I broke my ankle on Australia Day in Real Madrid. With the CSKA Moscow, I was there. We were playing on the road, EuroLeague battle, and I totally snapped my foot, got pushed back down on by 2 other guys, and it was one of those moments I just knew it was bad. Like I thought I did my knee at the same time. That's how bad it was. Had to fly back to Moscow, got the scan. Like couldn't even MRI because it was out swollen. Just a CT scan. It showed 2 clear snaps, and I was like, "No, you're done." Like this could be well. They didn't tell me at the time, career ending. A lot of people thought it might be like in the staff and CSKA and that, but they never told me this. But yeah, that was a real downer. I mean, you sit down and you think, those kind of injuries, I'm sure you've had a few too. You kind of sit down and you think, oh shit, this is what I do. And now it's going to be taken away from me like that. And you kind of like sit there, you go, fuck, I remember seeing the scan. I knew it was bad, so I kind of was already prepared, but you kind of sit yourself, oh fuck, like what am I going to do? And that's where the support factor comes in. I got great family, great people around me that helped me, got me back on the track. I came back to Australia, so I had to fly pretty much around the world with a broken ankle to get back to Australia to have the surgery in Melbourne, because it was regarded as like a AFL footy injury. Yeah. So snapping my foot like that. So I remember coming in, David Young patched me up, put some metal in my foot, got it all right. And short story, basically rehabbed the crap out of it, used my trainers and everyone, pool guys, got back on court, and I was back playing after about 9-10 months. But the flatness that comes along, the battles, trying to get that back on it's hard. It's like, you just, every day is a fight, just to try and get it right. And you kind of, it squanders your ambition. Takes your motivation.
The long-term injuries are a bitch, because you can do the same shit every day for a month and really see maybe 2 degrees of better extension in your ankle, and you're like,
what the fuck? Like, how is this going to go better? But then I had the great support around me. Bowden Babicek, my trainer, athletics guy, he was always like, mate, just you stick with it. Watch, you'll stick to this level for like 3 weeks, like you say, and then all of a sudden it'll go boom. But you don't need to try and push it, because otherwise it'll be. So having this good support around me definitely helped and made it easier on me. And I came back off this injury, and I was performing at the high level within a year or so. So those are good. But those moments, coupled with obviously the homesickness, like, being overseas in Europe, it's a lot lonelier there probably now. I mean, back then, because we didn't have FaceTime, we didn't have all this, which is probably not a bad thing either, because I didn't know about Australia. Like if you're playing in Europe now and you're looking on your Instagram and you're seeing all these guys having fun in the sun in
it's
in
an
Australia.
interesting one, isn't it? Because you think it'd help with homesickness.
But it won't. I reckon it's the worst. Opposite, right? Exactly. So I didn't have, like, I wasn't talking to mates on the phone every 2 seconds. I was just in my own little bubble over in Europe with my brother. So, but there was moments at night where you're like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm over here in a foreign speaking country, don't know anything after a bad game. You're like, what the fuck? You don't know what you're going to do, but you just kind of, you find it inside of you, your resilience, your ambition. I wanted to play. I liked doing what I do, and I just found comforts and things to keep me motivated and busy.
Bro, finish off with anything? Any grillings for old GQ?
Nah, I got no grillings for this dude, man.
Yeah.
No, it was cool to see. You have such a weird sort of career based on what, like Bogues said, like what most Australian players that played really well and had great careers did. Like usually they stayed in the NBL most of their careers. And then they maybe went to the NBA, maybe they didn't, but they didn't do the Europe thing for that long. And you had such a great run at the European, at the international level, then go to the NBA at an advanced age. Being a second round pick, I mean, you were already a drafted guy, and then you go to the NBA and then you go back. It's just, 20 fucking years, man. Like,
yeah, it's 20 plus. I always tell everyone now. That's
I'll give him shit, bro. I'll give him shit that the reason why he keeps playing, he's got some kids at home that are young kids and just doesn't want to go home to a full time dad yet. So he's 41. You're 41, right?
Yeah, 41.
Still looking for a contract?
Yeah, always. Tell all those NBL teams out there, NBA teams, everyone. No, it's one of those things. I enjoy the game. I mean, you fall in love with it. I'm sure Bogues is the same. Like, you want to think, and it's hard to give it up. So, it is one of those things.
They're starting a new pro league called the Mediocre 3. If you want to go in that, we could probably get you in. So it's not necessarily the big 3. It's more the Mediocre 3. We could probably get you through there.
Funny story, bro. I actually got a message from them the other day. I think it was
really?
2 months ago. I said, yeah, if you got a wheelchair big 3, I'm in. Otherwise, stop fucking messaging me.
Hey, who the fuck you gonna guard? Michael Rappaport? Get the fuck out of here.
And just that whole hype train behind it. Like, do they know anything about me? Like, that's so not me.
No.
I don't know the 3v3 stuff, but yeah, it's going to be an Olympic sport now.
Yeah. All right. Well,
it's cool.
Dave, we appreciate your time.
That was good.
What are you doing now? Anything you want to promote? Anything you want to give a shout out to? Feel free to. If not, we appreciate your time. I think it's a pretty cool message for our listeners to hear out of the, usually hear from NBA players and all that kind of stuff, but hearing a different journey of a guy that's been real successful. One thing I will say around your injuries is that you're one of the most utmost professional guys I've been around.
Thanks, brother.
You were a guy that was always getting in the extra work. I remember the Olympic Village. You'd always be going to the Olympic weight room, stretching and foam rolling and not lifting. You weren't a hardcore lifter, like weight wise, but just always maintaining your body and making sure you were ready for the next day's game or practice. And I think most guys that have played with you have learned a lot just from your professionalism. Even through a shitty game or a good game, you still were kind of the same every day. And that's hard to do over the journey of an Olympics or a season where you get frustrated with yourself and you're not playing well, and you were always kind of that most professional with everything you did.
Well, that gives you that level-headedness, I suppose. That's where I use that off-court stuff to keep me, because the highs and lows of basketball happen all the time. You're going to have good games, bad games, so you got to have other things in play that keep you, level-headed or monotone, sometimes I call it. So, yeah, I use the gym a lot just to keep me ticking along, keep me working, and obviously keep my body ticking along. I was never that physical presence, probably not as much as you. You got the big-ass, long-ass arms, you're taller, more jump higher, all that kind of stuff. So I had to get crafty, but definitely the gym stuff helped me, and keeping that side of things working was great. But the only thing I like to say is, like, for the kids out there, there's pathways. There's other ways to do things, like, it doesn't have to be, NBL or whatever it is, AIS, straight to college, straight to NBA. You can go different routes, and hopefully they learn in the NBL now. It's getting to a level where kids are going to be here, and with local talent's going to stay here more and more and more. But there's a whole world of European basketball out there, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the cultural ride that I did along the ways. I enjoyed seeing all the different parts of the world, and it's eye-opening. It's life-changing stuff. So for me, just a little kid from Frankston, growing up, never thought there's things. I saw the world from basketball, and hopefully some other kids will do the same thing in the future.
All right, bro. Final word.
I get nothing, brother. I get nothing. Hey, seriously though, it was fun talking to you. You know, you're probably one of the, you're young enough where you could continuously kick the shit out of me. So with Andrew Gaze and those guys, I could fuck with them a little bit because they ain't gonna, well, they'll probably still catch me, but I don't want to fuck with a guy that's, you know, once you get in your 50s, come back to us, I'll fuck with you a little bit more, but you could still, you know, choke the living shit out of me. So I'll let this one slide for today.
I'll get you, mate. Don't worry. I'll come and find you in Dallas, wherever you're at.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, bro. Thanks, Dave.
Good on you.